All right, as we have been doing all week, we are going to finally get to the end of our word problem review. And today our focus is going to be on division. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with division that we've been doing with all of the other operations this week. As I said every other day this week, you do need to know the total and labels. So if you do not know those by heart, you need to write them down quickly so that we can move on to our lesson. All right, so the question that we're going to start with says the length of a piece of yarn is 19.2 centimeters. Jessie cut the piece of yarn into 4 smaller pieces of length. What is the length of the smaller pieces of yarn? All right, so if I'm drawing my strip diagram, think of the strip diagram as the piece of yarn, okay? So this whole strip diagram, they're telling me the yarn is 19 and 2/10 of a centimeter. So this whole thing is 19 and 2/10. Then they're also telling me that they took that piece of yarn and they cut it into 4 smaller pieces of equal length. Okay? Meaning that every piece, when they cut it, is all the same. Okay? So all 4 of these pieces are equal. What I don't know is the length of these smaller pieces. So I know my total, and I know that that total is cut 4 times, but what I don't know is how much each of those actually is in length. Okay? So I'm going to do my totals and labels. So I can see from my strip diagram, I do know my total. And if I know my total, it's subtract or divide. I can also see that my labels are interesting because this is actually 19.2 centimeters, but this is the total amount, isn't it? Okay. And these are also going to be centimeters. However, these are going to be centimeters for the smaller pieces, right? So this is the total piece of the string, but these are the smaller pieces. And that's may be slightly confusing, but that's why I like to draw pictures, you know? So here's the whole string, okay? If I cut that string into 4 pieces, what I'm looking for is this piece, right? So this is actually going to be different labels because this is total centimeters and this is centimeters per piece or per smaller piece, if you want to say it that way. So if I have different labels, I'm going to multiply or divide. So I can see that I'm going to divide. So I know you guys like to do the box method. So I'm going to do the box method here. Okay. So let's see, I have 19 and 2/10. So that means 1, 9. And remember, we put this little tiny one for the decimal and then 2. And don't forget a decimal up here too. And how many pieces of string do I have? Well, I have 4. So I'm dividing it 4 times. I'm going to use a different color because it helps sometimes in the box to use a different color. All right. So remember, I only deal with one place value at a time. So I have 4 pieces of string, right? But I'm dividing by 4, making groups of 4. Right now I only have 1. So if I only have 1, I do not have enough to make a group of 4. So I'm going to place a 0, and 0 times 4 is 0, and I subtract to give me that 1. Now remember that 1 is going to be regrouped over here. Okay, and now I'm only thinking about this place right here. So again, I'm making groups of 4. How many 4s can I get out of 19? Well, I know that 4 times 5 is 20, but that's too much. So it's going to have to be 4 times 4, which is 16. So 4 groups of 4 is 16. And then I subtract. Well, that gives me 3 left over. Now remember, we don't put anything over here in the decimal place. This 3 is going to get regrouped here. So again, we're still making groups of 4. How many groups of 4 can I get out of 32? That would be 8. 8 times 4 is 32. And I have nothing left over. So what that's saying is that this is 4 8/10. Okay? Now remember, I can check this by doing 4 8/10, taking our quotient times our divisor, which is 4. And if I did it correctly, I should get that 19 2/10 that we started with. So 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 4, 16, plus 3 is 19. But then there's 1 decimal here in this factor. So it's at 19 2/10. So we did do that correctly. All right, our second problem that we're going to do says the weight of sand in a large bag is 63 4/10 pounds. The sand in the bag is divided, oh, look at that, equally into 20 small bags. What is the weight in pounds of the sand in a small bag? All right, so they're telling us, here's our large bag. Okay, they're telling us in this large bag is 63 4/10 pounds. Okay, I'm going to say total pounds of sand. And then they're telling us the sand in the bag is divided equally into 20 small bags. Okay, again, I don't really want to draw 20 pieces. Okay, so I will do that and label. What I don't know is how much each of these small bags is going to weigh. So that's what I need to find out. So in our totals and labels, it literally tells us we're going to divide, right? Okay, so we just need to prove that with our totals and labels. So we can see on the strip diagram that we do know our total. So if we know our total, we subtract or divide. Okay, and then we're looking at our labels. Okay, 63 4/10 pounds. Okay, pounds versus 20 bags. So those are definitely different labels. So if they are different labels, I'm going to multiply or divide. So I can see that I'm going to divide. All right, so like the last problem, I'm going to use the box method. Let me change to black to draw the box. Okay, so I have 63 4/10. And I'm going to divide that by 20. Okay, so I'm thinking of 20s this time. So grouping 20s. Right now I only have 6. Okay, so if I only have 6, I cannot group 20 together. So I would say that that's a 0. 0 times 20 is 0. And when I subtract, I have 6. Okay, now I'm taking that 6 and putting it over here. So 63, how many 20s can I get out of 63? Well, I know it's 20, 40, 60. That would be the third multiple. So I can get 3 groups. And that would leave me with 3. I am already seeing a slight problem. So I'm going to go back and change something here. I'm going to put this 4 right here. And I'm going to erase this, and you'll see why in just a minute. Okay, so, and I'm doing that because I didn't have enough room left over here because I can't write on this gray space. So you on your paper could have just added a whole nother column here in just a minute, but I can't do that because I can't write on the gray space. So I'm going to take the 3. Remember, we don't put it in the decimal place value. We put it right here. Okay, so how many 20s can I get out of 34? Well, looking up here, that would be just 1 because 2 would be too much. Okay, now do you see why I added that next column? Okay, because I do need to stop. I do need to continue on. Okay, I can't just stop there because this is telling me that each of these are equal. And so if I stop right there with a leftover, then that means that there's sand that's left over, but they didn't tell me that there was going to be leftover sand. So I'm going to actually add a 0 here. Okay, remember, if I do this 63 and 4/10, I can still add as many zeros as I want. And as long as it's just zeros and not another digit, then I'm not changing this value. That's why I can add another column with a 0. So that now I can take this 14 and I can make it really into 140. Okay. Well, if I were to continue, this would be 80, 100, 120, and 140. Okay, so that's 7 groups. 7 groups of 20 is 140, and now I don't have anything left. Okay, so I'm saying that each of these spots is 3 17/100 pounds. Okay, so I can prove that by taking my quotient, which is 3 17/100, and I multiply by our divisor, which was 20. Now remember, when I'm multiplying by a multiple of 10, I can take this 0 and just bring it down and cross it off. I don't have to have a whole row of zeros and then start another row. Bringing that 0 down tells me that I have nothing in the ones place, and now I'm going to the tens place. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And if I count over, I have 2 place values here, and this was a whole number. So I start from the right and go over 2 place values, and there's my 63 and 4/10 that I started with. So we did do that correctly.